Like a peach and she snapped me the snippet. Whatever do for that link with the person. Text me to fall through its murder, she wrote it. Still up with courage, you're doing a service. Pull up to the crib, I'm equipped with the brush strokes. Cutthroat from the low, where no love goes. Women buddy like it's been dab. When me looking at the bill stack. Off the bubbly buddy, I've been stressed out. Let the smoke scream from my chest out. Laced up, I really hate love from a stranger. Shit is fake stuff, only need it from you. Yeah.
Right now all I'm doing is removing the intake and exhaust rocker rails, whatever you want to call them. All the Hemi engines, the rocker arms are on rails like this. So when you're taking them off, you just want to, there is a procedure that you can follow where you can rotate the engine around and this and that. Not gonna lie, I don't ever really do that. The main thing you want to do is just use common sense. You don't want to get the rail in a bind. So you are, the camshaft is going to be pushing on some of the valves. So there's going to be spring pressure on this rail. So you don't want to take one end completely loose and the other end tight and put the rail in a bind. So I just start in the middle and do a crisscross pattern and just kind of loosen it very equally. So if you want to use the exact procedure, you can do that. Said I've never had an issue, but there is a textbook right way to do it. I've got that box up there. So I've got several valve train guide holders. You can find them on Summit, Jegs, Amazon. They're super handy, and we do have them. We do use them. But at the moment, they're all taken up with other engines that are apart. So what I've done for years is just take a box, kind of like over there, right front on it, and I'll just show you. Just real easy. So this is probably going to be, if you're taking one of these apart at home and you want to keep this organized, which you definitely do, this will be more realistic for what you can do with what you're going to have available to you easily. There's no sense in buying a valve train organizer if you're not taking engines apart all the time. Probably never going to use it. Okay, when we go back together with this, I'll show you how to make sure you do not get the rockers out of alignment. So basically you got exhaust rail and the intake rail. So they make it easy for you. All the intake have an eye on them actually. So pretty easy not to mix them up. But what I would suggest is when you take these off, this box that I have over here, or if you have a valve train holder, this is specifically to keep everything organized. So if you don't have a valve train holder, it's no big deal. Just get you a box. You might have a cool Lamborghini box like this, but that's all right. So what I've done is you can use, this is like a tool I've got just for running wires through grommets or something, but you can use a Phillips head screwdriver. Honestly, that's what I've used every single time except for this. But so I just mark front on it, and you can use this to organize your valve train real easily. So I took this side off already, and I'll show you. This is super beneficial, especially if you have an engine with a problem per se that you're trying to figure out. So this makes it real easy to keep everything separated. So if you need to locate a problem on a specific cylinder or something later on, you can do that real easily. Chipper. All right, I'll try to be more chipper. So Brody says I'm not chipper enough, so I'm gonna try to chipper it on up here. So this is an intake valve rail in all its glory. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it on this box over here. This isn't just any box, it is a Lamborghini box. So if that's not enough to get excited about, I don't know what is. Well, there's a lot of critics around here, not very many fans. So there's that. Okay, so you can use this. I just grabbed the box. I just put tape on it because it's just to keep the oil off of it. There's not a ton on this because this engine is really, we haven't ran it yet. So again, so you got your intake and your exhaust push rod. So they're going to be different lengths on all these Hemi engines. So this is just real easy, just to keep it separated so you don't have to think about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you go. So you get 8. So on the regular Hellcat engines or all the Hemi engines, they use head bolts. So on the Hellephant engine, they used head studs. So these are going to be ARP's regular head studs. What we use on all our built engines, what we'll go back with is their tool steel head studs. So once I get this head off, I'll show you the difference between a regular head stud and one of the tool steel head studs that we're getting reinstalled on one of the other short blocks that we have here. So let me go ahead and get these heads off. Normally what you'd want to do, or what I would suggest doing before you pull the heads off, is I would pull the block plugs. So on this engine, it's like a brass Allen head plug that unscrews. On most any engines, it's going to be like a pipe plug type fitting, probably like a 9/16 socket. What that'll do is drain the coolant from the block itself. So that way when you pull the head off, the coolant from the water jackets doesn't dump down in the cylinders. Since this has not been ran, has no coolant in it, you know, this is more like a Saturday morning TV show. We don't have to do all that. So I'm just taking the, there's going to be 5 smaller head studs or head bolts across the top of the cylinder head. I'm just going to break those loose first. And if it's ARP, these are all going to be 12-point sockets. So make sure you have a couple of those. Most people have 6-point sockets. Again, there is also a procedure for specific the order in which you want to take these loose. I just kind of go in reverse order of what I would tighten them in. So as far as like tightening the head bolts, yes, I would definitely recommend only going in a specific pattern. As far as loosening them, you know, I don't want to tell you to do the wrong thing. If you're not sure at all, then, you know, don't. I just kind of go in a very a crisscross pattern, you know, just tighten or loosening them very slowly, a little bit at a time. And basically the reason for that is the cylinder head is under pressure. So you don't want to distort the cylinder head and warp it. Now these are going to get completely replaced, but again, you still want to do it the right way. So I don't know what the cam specs are on this Hellephant engine, but I can tell from loosening up those rocker rails that this does feel like a higher lift camshaft for sure than a regular Hellcat or anything like that. Once we get it apart, we'll probably put it in a cam doctor and see exactly what the cam specs are. But and what I mean by that is as I'm loosening up the bolts for the rails, you can kind of tell how much the lift is on the cam by how much you have to loosen those before the tension is off the bolts. So, and if you're wondering, the cylinder heads are the same cylinder heads that are on a Red Eye or a Demon. Same part number, you know. The valve springs and stuff might be different, I don't know yet, but as far as the cylinder head castings, they are the same. So, if you're wondering, there's nothing crazy special. So again, ARP head studs. If you all have had performance stuff before, I'm sure you're familiar with these. Stock is a head bolt, which is just a bolt. A head stud is going to have much more clamping force. You're going to want to use that, especially in any kind of boosted application. Pretty standard in the industry. I have not ever seen that I can remember a kind of, well, this isn't really like a stock production engine, but you would never see ARP head studs in like a regular factory car. You'd always use they would use head bolts, and there'd always be torque to yield. Torque to yield means the bolt stretches to a specific amount, and the easiest way to tell if it's a torque to yield bolt or not is the torque specs on the bolt will be usually like a 3-step procedure, and it'll be so many foot-pounds, and then the final tightening will be so many degrees. So, and that is basically how far they want that bolt to stretch. So if you have a bolt like that on any engine, and it is called a torque to yield bolt, and it is a one-time use only, because when you tighten it, you are actually stretching the bolt. So you don't want to reuse that bolt, you want to replace it. Head studs have a much higher clamping force. So if you got a boosted application specifically that can keep the head from lifting off the block under high boost or anything like that. And then I mentioned tool steel head studs. I'll show you the difference. They are just much stronger. So they're, you know, basically exactly what it's called. It's, you know, a much higher grade of steel, stronger and more clamping force. So when you start really pushing a lot of power, real high compression, a lot of boost, inside the combustion chamber, you know, it's wanting to push the head off the block, and it doesn't seem like it would be able to do that, but it can. So on a stock Hellcat engine, typically once you start getting above, I'm gonna say somewhere around, I would say 24 pounds and above, what you can do is you can actually lift the head on the cylinder block. Now, as soon as I say that, there's going to be somebody that says Joe Blow has 25 pounds and he hasn't done it. I'm just trying to give you a rough conservative number. I don't really care about Joe Blow. So if you use head studs and you know, anything like that, you're going to increase the clamping force. So you can run more boost for more power, barring that the bottom end can take it. The studs are ARP, yeah. I'm sure that the rod bolts and stuff, and I mean, we'll see. I don't know if it has ARP main studs or not. Well, I guess we'll find out. I'm sure they probably are. They use head studs. And you know, if you're wondering like the difference, you know, so tool steel head studs are very, very expensive, just because the steel is so hard. The machining process is more expensive, so you might pay somewhere like around $450 for a set of regular ARP main studs, and you might pay $2,000 for a set of tool steel head studs. So big difference in price, but again, you know, they're much stronger. So when we go back with this, we'll definitely be using the tool steel head studs. But just to give you an idea how much difference in cost they are, it's pretty significant. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this head off. And so there's gonna be 2 dowel pins, just like most other engines. So you just kind of want to work it off there. Make sure you got hold of the head good. Pull it straight off the stud, like so. Yeah, so it looks like pretty much like a traditional. Had to dig in this a little bit deeper. I see a couple things that are standing out to me a little bit different, but I don't want to just sit here and speculate. So, and then we'll go ahead and just take the head gasket off. Obviously, it goes without saying we will not be reusing this, but we will go back with stock head gaskets. I typically in all the cars now, I just go back with stock head gaskets. I find that most of the time have the best luck with those. Head gaskets are kind of like a, I don't know, personal preference. You know, some people swear by a certain brand. Said I kind of like the stock stuff. Never had any problem with them. So, and that goes for, you know, multiple cars. So again, this isn't so important to keep this separated at this point. I'm just kind of like, this is just by habit. So I would do this, I would suggest doing this, just getting the habit of doing something. Instead of like throwing everything in a pile, I would keep everything separated. Normally, I would not take a brand new engine apart like this. So kind of like, you know, this is not what I would typically do. So normally I would keep everything separated so I could review stuff in detail later on. So I'm just gonna kind of stick with what I know, keep it separated. All these ARP studs, they'll have like a spot for like an Allen head bolt in the top where you can remove them. They should not be put in real tight. They're just kind of just barely snug. You don't want to get them crazy tight. And so here we've got the Hellephant block, and this is going to be like the biggest difference between any other Hellcat base platform. So right now I can see right off the bat that the top of the cylinder walls have a kind of significant amount of surface rust on them, which is not really good. And so this engine has came to us. It has not, this would be how it came. So we'll get some B-roll of that so y'all can see that. I'm gonna get the other side off and then we'll kind of review this, what this looks like overall. So right now, you know, cast iron, I can see that the block is much more closed off. Got the cast iron sleeves in it, aluminum block. I might have just said cast iron block, I don't know. It's late, it's probably 2 o'clock in the morning, but aluminum block, obviously. So this is gonna replicate pretty much like the tightening procedure. I don't remember it exactly, pretty close. If you hear a pop like that, it's not a big deal, happens all the time. Especially if you run like, you know, like our billet block configuration, we'll use like 1/2-inch head studs. So the clamping force is extremely tight and it sounds like the cylinder head is cracking, but it's just the way it is. The first time does kind of catch you by surprise. Alright, I'm just doing the same thing as the other side. Taking head gasket off. These are probably triple layer head gaskets, pretty common nowadays. Okay, so Brody said we got 1 minute left on this SD card. So we just got the heads off. So what we'll do, it's super late here. It's like 3:25 in the morning. So what I'll resume this later on, probably tomorrow night. And what we'll do is we'll pull the head studs out. I'm not gonna do any of this that's not on camera, so y'all are gonna get to see the entire thing. So basically we pulled the heads off, showed you pulling the rocker rails off, the push rods off. So we'll kind of end it here and we'll see you tomorrow night. See you guys.